Hi, my name's Alex. I'm 21 years old. I'm from West Palm Beach, Florida. I practically lived there all my life till about I was 19 and moved to North Carolina. And I'm also deaf. I have a cochlear implant, and I'm also a tattoo artist as well. I've always been drawing anything you can think of, art media, since I was a little girl. I was born hearing, and there was no problems at all. My mom didn't know anything. And over time, I would get sick a lot. And they thought I had the flu the whole time because I used to live in Key West as well. They thought I was allergic to lime dust. But it turns out after many months, practically having my own room at the hospital, they decided to do certain kind of testing and whatnot. And what really caught my mom's attention was one day I was watching TV and she happened to turn it down all the way down, and she said, she came behind me, had 2 pots of pans, and just started smacking right behind me. I didn't flinch one bit, and my grandma said the same thing. So that kind of gave a better idea of what was going on with me. And my doctor, Dr. Angeli, came to a point to find out that I had meningitis, viral meningitis, or bacteria. It's been so long. So once they figured that I had meningitis, and when it did go into my ears, I was already deaf. I lost 100% both ears, and I got my cochlear on my right side when I was 3, back in 2001, and actually happened to get my second one on my left ear back when I was in high school, in my senior year, right before I graduated. But yeah, I was born hearing, but things happen.
So you were born hearing, but by the time you were 3 years old, you had gone completely deaf.
Yeah.
And you don't remember, I guess you were so young, you didn't remember the transition, or what?
I actually do remember, like, I heard some stuff. It's very faint, but when I got my cochlear, I do remember, because they had to wait a month for it to heal before they could turn it on. But when it turned on, I do remember hearing my name. That was the first thing I heard. And my mom started bawling. But they said because I got it so young, that's why I can speak very well now. So I'm not nasal, like other deaf people are. So they said, being young, and the doctor did his research and everything, they called me the perfect surgery. And they weren't expecting me to be able to hear completely and hear almost like a hearing person. But without it, I hear nothing at all. I can sleep at night, not hear the dogs barking or anything like that.
So without the cochlear implants, you go back to non-hearing.
Yeah, I don't hear anything, like 0% hearing.
So do you know any sign language?
I do.
You do? So did you have to, I guess, yeah.
Well, I had speech therapy because at the time I wasn't really walking. By the time they found out everything. So I don't know how to walk properly, I don't know how to speak properly. And around that time, they would show me certain hand signs. And by the time I got my cochlear, got a little bit older, went to pre-K, I had an interpreter. And that's where I learned a lot, from my friends, teachers I had at the time. And I just got fluent with it, so I was able to sign more than I was able to speak when I was very young. Now I can speak, all day long, but if I had to sign, I can.
You can sign too.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's a cool thing to know. That's a cool thing to know. So how did they determine that you had meningitis?
The only thing that my mom could figure out how I got it was, there was this one time when I was at the hospital, there was a little boy that was next to me. I don't know the name, whatnot, and other certain information I won't disclose, but I do know that the doctor was handling him, and he happened to pass away the next day from meningitis. And that doctor did then take care of me after. So they think he probably wasn't sterile, with what he was doing. My mom couldn't do a lawsuit or anything like that because there was no proof. And It may not be from him, but that's the only thing that my mom can think of is that I got from that doctor who then took care of that little boy who passed away from it.
Wow. That's wild. And so how old were you when you were going through that?
I started going to hospital when I was about, if I heard my mom right, probably right before I was 1. Around time where I was supposed to be walking, but I wasn't really walking. I had to hold on to stuff. If I didn't hold on to stuff, I would just lose my balance. So probably around between 10 months old to a year old, and I was dealing with it till about January of 2001, almost 2 years, a year and a half, that I was dealing with this. And I was sick a lot. Like, I had my own bag at the hospital.
So how old were you when you actually stopped going to the hospital? Like how many years of your life did you spend pretty much more at the hospital than you were at home?
I would say from when I was like about a year and a month old to about when I was turning 3, February. I mean, I was at the hospital more than I did in that whole year.
Yeah.
And it was also a very hectic time because my mom was dealing with cancer. So we weren't never home practically. And
So let me get this right. So you were born hearing. By the time you were 10 months old, you'd gone deaf, completely deaf. You were diagnosed with meningitis, possibly.
yeah, they don't know how long I was deaf for until they did so much testing. They're like, what's wrong with the daughter? And she was deaf. And once they went in, that's when they figured out I had meningitis.
So somewhere between birth and 10 months old, you had gone deaf.
Probably a little bit older than 10 months.
A year and a month.
Probably around there.
So, and then you got meningitis from pretty much being in the hospital so much, even though you can't prove it. And then at this whole time that all this is going on with you, your mom's battling cancer.
Yeah.
What kind of cancer?
She had breast cancer, but she beat it. She didn't lose anything. It was a short one, but it was a hard one though.
Yeah.
She was there with me, she was done with that, and we hopped around, moving on. We moved a lot, and yeah, but she beat it though.
Is she a single mom?
Well, when I was younger, she was with my dad, but they're never married. Yeah, they have their own adult issues and whatnot. They kind of went on and off for a few years, but then after that, it was just me and my mom. I still saw my dad, but there was a good time where it's just my mom and I.
Yeah.
And we moved a lot because she used to work 2 jobs, sometimes 3. Sometimes there'll be days where I'll be staying with my grandma because she has to go out of town or stuff like that. But I always saw my dad. There were some times he did move around a lot for his work, but we always managed to keep in touch no matter what.
So it sounds like a pretty rough introductory into the world.
Yeah.
You kind of chose like to come out like, front line on the battlefield. Like I'm going to come out fighting a whole bunch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so what was kind of like going through your adolescent years? I mean, did things kind of settle down as you got into like, high school? And I mean, what were those experiences like?
At first, I hated being deaf. Right in plant, I hated it. Even though when I was like 8, 9, 10, I remember times where I was like, I was almost deaf. I just never, I was never interested in it. I was like, okay, I can hear, but there was certain stuff that I couldn't do. Like, if I went swimming, I had to take it off because it's not waterproof, especially what I was wearing back in the day.
Yeah.
And I didn't like how I couldn't hear my alarm clock. So by the time I got to middle school, I actually got a bed shaker. I'll shake my bed, so I'm like, all right, I'm up. But if I don't have that, my mom would have to wake me up. Like, I remember the whole elementary school, my mom would wake me up at like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and make sure I wake up because I'm a hard sleeper.
Yeah.
But elementary was all right. No one really picked on me. I mean, there's a few people, but I didn't really let them get to me, whatnot. And when I was in middle school, now that's a different story. I was bullied badly. You know, I've had kids slam into lockers, you know, no one really talked to me. I would be the one sitting alone in the lunchroom. Because at that school, I was the only deaf kid and first deaf kid that went there. And it was hard because at the time it was just, I would just go home, just do my homework, not really have any friends to hang out with. I had a very, like, 1 or 2 friends. Like, there's this one friend I've always been friends with since 3rd grade. I still talk to her to this day. But she was there, but when she moved, it was just me. And 8th grade, it got bad. I finally stood up for myself and I got expelled from middle school. I was really mad at the time, but when I got to my new middle school, there's this art teacher who happened to see me drawing on the first day of class. And she told me to stay after school. I'm like, why? Like, I didn't want to get to know anyone. I didn't want to be friends with anyone. Well, I was like, I'll just stay after school, just see what's going on. And she's like, I want you to draw this. I'm like, all right. I drew it up and she's like, I'm gonna give you my number and you have more homework. I'm like, fine, give me more homework. I just started here kind of thing. And after a few months by of her making me draw certain stuff, she's like, I'm gonna help you try to get to Dreyfus School of the Arts. And she started to make me realize, you know, I can take this far. You know, I can go somewhere with it. Even though it's a little sketchy, not knowing how far I can get or how people should look at me, but, and then a few more months went by, towards the end of 8th grade, everyone knew who I was. I was on TV again. Well, I was on TV for street painting, you know, doing a update story about my cochlear implant. And I mean, there was people that came up to me, I didn't even know them, but they knew me. And I started drawing for people, they would pay me. And I got really, I would say if I didn't meet the art teacher, I don't know where I'd be at. Because it definitely changed my life.
Sounds like it.
Do what?
Sounds like it.
It was, because at first I was still sketchy about it.
Yeah.
But if I never met her, if I never gone to that school, I don't know where I'd be at. I'd probably be doing something, but I have no idea what I'd be doing.
So by her taking acknowledgement of your artist level, so that took you, you know, it kind of changed your whole high school years too, it sounds like. So what happens after high school?
Well, I'll kind of go backtrack a little bit. Since 8th grade, having to be really good once I got to that new school, I got to know people from the high school that I was going to be attending. And within my freshman year, I got really close with my principal. And I'll say her name, Dr. Mary Stratos.
Dr. Mary Stratos? At what high school?
Forest Hill Community High School. Once I met her, she knew that I was very kept back, but I wanted to do stuff. And she actually had me design the honor roll t-shirts. She had me start painting on the school, like approved by the school board. And we got really close, you know, she always kept an eye on me. And that happened from 9th grade all the way till, I still talk to her sometimes now. And it's been just over 2 years since I graduated. But she always made sure any opportunity there was, I'll be the first one to know. And she always took care of me well. She was a phenomenal lady. If I can see her now, I would, but.
So that's two like majorly influential people that found you through your school years.
What?
That's two influential women that have found you during your school years that have ultimately helped shape where you are now.
Definitely helped where I got to.
Yeah.
And I got some opportunities in high school to where I thought wouldn't get, or if it was even possible. And I remember right before I graduated, Miss Stratos told me, she's like, no matter how far along you go, always keep in touch. And she's like, just give it 5 years and you look back and you'll thank me I've been thanking her since freshman year.
Yeah.
You know, I've always drawn her for presents. You know, just be a good student. You know, give her my thanks back. And I mean, she had a big heart. It wasn't just to me, but there's other students. But it was a very nice welcoming into high school, to where high school was great. No drama, nothing. I just went with the flow, and if I could go back to high school, I would go for the fun of it. Definitely not the work.
Definitely not the work. I hear you. So tell me how. So okay, so you go through high school, and so what happens then? So what happens next?
Once I graduated, at first I was like, I kind of didn't know what to do, but I had an idea because I've always wanted to be a tattoo artist. So I happened to, actually I'll go back a little bit. In my sophomore year or junior year, I actually did an apprentice for tattooing at Outrageous Tattoos in West Palm Beach, Florida. Did it for 6 months, 6 to 7 months, completed it. And then I focused on school. By the time I was a senior, graduated, I thought about going to shops, but I didn't know where, because I wanted to start like right away. And I found a shop, worked there for a while, began my senior year. I was trying to figure out what to do. And I was looking for shops in my beginning of senior year. And I found a shop, worked there part-time. It was only certain days or if I had no school. And I was also working at Friday nights and at the South Florida Fair. Around that time, I was dealing with a lot of school, like I was taking extra classes and all that. And that's around that time I just met Charles, who is my husband now. And I had some personal stuff going on, so I moved in with him. I've been living with him ever since then, of course. And by the time I graduated, you know, we were still boyfriend and girlfriend. And I was like, all right, I'll just work full time at a tattoo shop. It was all right. And around October, we actually came up here to Waynesville, North Carolina, just for vacation for the weekend. And I remember on the way, after I spent here for the weekend, on the way back home, I was like, you want to move? And my husband's like, where? North Carolina? I'm like, yeah, why not? We're like, all right. So we were going to start saving up money, you know, to where we have enough money to buy a house or rent a place, you know, that kind of stuff. And December, I happened to get lucky a lot sooner. And I remember I was at work and I got a certain check. I didn't believe it at first until I called to find out if it was true. It was a real check. And I remember going home and my boyfriend at the time was like, hey Charles, you wanna move? He's like, well, we can't, we have no money. I'm like, we can move like this month. I was like, nah. I started my check and I was like, we're moving. So I remember that night I told everyone, I'm like, I'm leaving this month, at the end of this month. And Charles told his family and everything, and we actually drove up here like a good 5-6 times back and forth, non-stop to find a house. Once we find one, we're like, all right, this is our last week in here. And I've been here for over 1.5 years now. I love it. The weather's great. I'm in a great tattoo shop, which is Forbibben Color Tattoos. The owner is Johnny Lance. I've been here since November of 2018. Tattooing, and yeah, I'm always checking out places, going hiking, going fishing. And then this, of course, with the whole photo shoot and being in a magazine. That's what I was waiting for, to get something so I can get my name out there in a whole different new state. Because if you look me up on Google, it'll show me all about me in Florida.
Yeah.
But it's nice to get something started here.
Yeah.
So it's pretty great.
So tell me about like a fear that you haven't been able to overcome yet.
Well, I'm always worried that if I ever get hurt in a car accident or something or messes up my hearing, if it hits my magnet just right or whatever, I'm scared it won't work. Like, if I do lose it, I probably won't be able to hear it again. That's one of them.
So what is it about tattooing? Like you said that you've always wanted to be a tattoo artist. Why? Like what is it about tattooing that just gives you that passion?
I remember I was like 10, 11, maybe 12. My mom thought it was a phase. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna be a tattoo artist, kind of thing. Well, there's this one tattoo shop in Florida. You had to be 18 go in, and I couldn't go in right away, so I would just kind of hang out, kind of right outside, drawing my sketchbook. I remember a little bit went by, and the owner of our artist was like, hey, you can come in, it's just us. And I started, the guy tattooing my mom, I'm like, that'd be cool to put my artwork on someone. And actually wrote a little note, I was like 11, where I wanted to be a tattoo artist. And like I said, my mom thought it was a phase, but kept telling her, I was like, I want to be a tattoo artist. When I was 15, a day before Christmas Eve, my mom was like, I have a present for you. I was like, it's not even Christmas Eve yet. She's like, don't care, just open it up. And she got me my first everything, tattoos wise, tattoo machines to appropriate inks, like everything you can name up. And that's where it started, because that very next day I tattooed myself. It was the very first tattoo I did, and my first tattoo
Was on yourself?
Yeah, on my inner ankle.
And what is it?
It's a little puzzle piece. This is why I did a puzzle piece.
You did what, bees?
Puzzle piece.
Puzzle piece.
Pieces.
Gotcha.
It's not for autism, even though I do support autism. But the reason why I did a puzzle piece is because once I do find the right image, I'll figure out my life. So it's like I'm creating my picture. So I thought that was a good way, nothing too cheesy, even though I was 15 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And my mom thought that was a good one to start. And so I did that. And then when I did my apprenticeship when I was 16. And then I started doing home tattoos for a little bit. Of course, I was being smart about it. I made sure everything was sterile, knew what I was doing. I had proper training. And by the time I got, where I was almost done with high school, I got stuck. I tattooed for a little bit, but not full time. So I didn't really start tattooing full time until I actually moved to North Carolina. And off when I go.
So it's really about being able to kind of put your artwork onto somebody. To clearly what they want too,
right.
But to be able to have your touch and
right.
your vision.
It's honoring to have someone to be like, all right, I want this, but I want you to do it. And that's why I have a lot of regular clients, like, hey, if you were still in Florida, or if I met you in Florida, I'll drive down there to see you, just get tattooed from you. So it's a very touching thing. For some to be like, I want you. Not anyone else, not another shop down the road, or another artist in another state. And especially when they want a really full, truly custom tattoo, it's like, all right, I can do my thing. And it'll be on them till the day they die, practically. Yeah. So it's pretty cool, not just draw on paper and just sell it for this, when they can pay one price and it's on them forever. And that's why, if I could, I'll go travel around the world to get tattoos. Just get different, techniques, different skills from different artists around. And because I remember when I first started tattooing, I was like, how am I gonna get more clients? And I learned how to market on Instagram, Facebook, and all that, but I was like, I need to get out there more. And it's just a matter of, working out with the clients, when it comes to prices, or how big, or if I want to do a little bit bigger, but they can't afford that much, I'll work with them.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot of things of how to get my clients back or get new clients. Because at first, I didn't think tattoo was that big of a deal, when it ranges from, sterilization to standing up to drawing, be able to draw it symmetrical, make sure it's balanced, make sure you have a contrast in there. Like, it's a lot more. But there's always something every day that I learn about it. And I look forward to where I'm at in 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years, if I'm still doing it then. But
So if you had to describe yourself, and we'll finish with this, if you had to describe yourself in 3 words, what would those 3 words be?
3 words. Ambitious, independent, courage,
What?
like courage.
Courageous.
Yeah, courageous.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that. Ambitious, independent, and courageous. I love that.